So the government is handing out money left, right, and center. Was that the right left? Yes. The government's handing out money everywhere, right? And you might think, yes, payday, let me get my stimulus check here, a little stimulus check over here, some unemployment, I'll be taking that too. But who is paying for this? Where are they getting this money from? Let's get into the details about where this stimulus money comes from. It might have you a little bit shook, so make sure you watch until the end for all that and more. It's Crystal with the Cash Compass. All right, welcome back. I am here to teach you all the things that you should have learned in school about money, but for whatever reason, they forgot to mention it. Please be sure to subscribe because we talk about everything from personal finance to investing to the economy. Let's get into it. So let's first discuss where the government gets their money from. The government does not make money, okay? They don't make money, they just take money. They don't make money, they just take money. Hey. They do not earn anything because they are just an entity that collects money from us. So we are the ones that really make the money. And you can see right here, the majority of their revenue comes from taxes. I do think people give a lot of power to the government, not really realizing that it's just a bunch of people too, right? So just like your uncle could be really bad with money and always begging and can't even make a budget, the government as a collection of people can do the absolute same. And in fact, they absolutely do. We are in $25 trillion worth of debt, right? And that number just keeps on skyrocketing during this current situation that we're going through. So they're not managing their money, or I guess our money. They're not managing our money that well at all. Now, there is another way that they get their funding, but I'm going to get into that in just a moment. But first, let's explain what the Federal Reserve is and where the Federal Reserve gets their money from. Because if you didn't know, we have been getting stimulus kind of from both sides. We've been getting it from the federal government, which is an actual federal entity that's been giving out different stimulus. But the Federal Reserve has also been giving out their form of stimulus too. And I think a lot of people get confused because they hear Federal Reserve and they think it has something to do with our government. But the Federal Reserve is a private entity that cannot be audited. So whatever they report to us, it might be true, but it might be a complete lie too, because we can't really check them. We can't look at their books and see if all their money is actually going where they said it's going to go. It's kind of just like some sort of honor system. Right. And the Federal Reserve quite literally gets the money from out of nowhere. I'm going to share this clip with you. I think it's very interesting.
Okay, so YouTube wouldn't let me be great. It was copyrighted, but I do have a piece of the transcript, which is what I was trying to show you guys. So as you can see here, he's explaining that they print it digitally. They're a central bank. They have the ability to create the money. So go ahead and just read this, and then you can actually see what I was going to say on it. If you want to see the whole clip, I will put this in the description. It's kind of boring, but this is the main part that I wanted to discuss.
Okay, so as you can see, they literally just digitally print the majority of the money. They do have some money that they actually print physically, but the majority of it is just digital, a bunch of zeros on the screen, and boom, now we're trillionaires. I'm gonna need that printer. The Federal Reserve can just create digital dollars and buy actual assets. And one of the things that he mentioned in this video is that they buy bonds guaranteed by the governments, right? So what does that mean? So like I said before, governments get their money from taxes, but they can also get their money by getting into debt, right? And getting into loans. So what they'll do is they'll issue bonds. Now, the average person like you and I, we can buy bonds, right? So we can go and say, okay, we want to get a treasury bond or a bill or whatever, and then we'll be getting our interest payments from the government and get our lump sum payment at the end of the maturity if you actually hold it that long. But the Federal Reserve can also buy these things up, and so can other countries. So whenever the government wants to get into more debt, that's $25 trillion number that I mentioned, whenever they want to issue out some more debt, they can give it to us, or they can give it to the Federal Reserve, who creates the money out of nothing. But it's important to know, like I said before, the government is borrowing money, but they don't make any money. We make the money. So when they're issuing debt, it's us who's paying for the debt, okay? And it's just funny because if you're like investing in a bond, for example, like maybe if you have a 401k and you have a mix of stocks and bonds, if you have US bonds, you're investing in a bond, you're getting it some interest, but then you're really paying that interest back, right? Because they take it out of your taxes. So it's a very crazy situation where it's like you're really just kind of borrowing money from yourself and you don't even know it. So while I think a lot of people just think it's a free payday, it's important to realize that there is no such thing as a free lunch. We are paying for these things. We might not be seeing it right now because we're still in the thick of everything. And I think a lot of people are focused on quarantining and, social distancing distancing. But once we get kind of back to a normal and there's like a sort of a little bit of a lull, you'll really start to see what's going on. And then I think the true economic crisis might unfold in front of people's eyes. These things are only funded by taxes. And if we have a situation where 30 plus million people have lost their jobs and the government needs to get into more debt to help these people, but the people who have the jobs are the ones that are really paying for this, I mean, do you see how that could be a problem? I don't see how taxes cannot rise because they're going to have to pay for this somehow. And because they don't have their own jobs, like their jobs are just taking our money, it's really us who has to pay for this in the form of higher taxes. Maybe even corporations will get higher taxes. And when they get higher taxes, they'll be more likely to lay off even more people. So I can see it being extremely problematic in the future. And even if corporations do get taxes, you have to remember the tax code is really written to benefit business owners and investors. The average everyday person with a 9 to 5 gets taxed the most. Corporations are able to deduct a lot of different things as expenses. So while we can't deduct maybe like our makeup that we buy, or we can't deduct cars that we purchase, they can use it for business reasons and they can deduct all that money from their earnings. So it can look like they've made a lot less than they actually have because they can deduct pretty much everything. So we end up really paying for a lot of the taxes because we don't have so much things that we can deduct against our taxable income. And like I said, we are kind of slowly easing back into the economy. So if they cannot get tax revenue, then what else starts looking good? Those pensions are looking good. And if you don't know about the pension crisis, I do have a video up here going into detail about pensions and 401k. So you'll want to check that out after you hit subscribe. But yes, so then it's like, well, other things will start looking lucrative and all of a sudden people are getting their pensions cut or people's property taxes are raising. I mean, it's going to be a domino effect. And if they don't want to kind of affect pensions because maybe they know people are going to start panicking, well, then maybe they'll just issue out some more debt. But you can't just loan your way out of a problem, you know? So I definitely think that things will be getting interesting as we see what they try to do to kind of get us out of this rut. So obviously that information is not helpful if you don't know what to do with it, right? So I strongly suggest that you protect your pockets and you become as self-sustainable as possible. I've said this so many times, but I really want everybody to think about it right now. While we have time, while there's still kind of dust in the air, you know, try to get yourself properly acided. Is that a word? Yes, it's a word today. Get yourself in a good position so that you have things that can help you survive even if you lose your job. You know, food, water, toilet paper, whatever else anybody else start going crazy over. If you aren't interested or you don't really know a lot about gold and silver, I strongly suggest you look into that. It's not something that I think you'll actually need right now, but you don't want to wait until that time comes to be worried about it. So get it while it's actually here, while it's, I wouldn't say affordable, but while it's at least relatively affordable, while it's extremely undervalued and manipulated, because gold and silver are heavily manipulated right now. So while they're manipulated in our favor, we might as well get into it. And if you guys want another updated video about gold and silver, let me know. But I do have one that has a lot of information, so you can check that out. But you'll want to definitely make sure you are focusing on you, okay? It's okay to be selfish right now because you want to make sure that we're getting our money up and protecting ourselves so that if we reach a point where we do see hyperinflation in the US and, you know, our dollars are not worth as much as they were, you can still survive because it is survival of the fittest out here. All right, that will do it. If you like this video, then please like this video and share it with your friends. And if you have anything else going on, you know what I'm going to say. Go ahead and binge watch me. But until next time, keep your money up.